Hello, and welcome to our discussion of Shochu and the Shochu industry, Awamori and the Awamori industry, and what this means for the future of this category, Japan's best kept secret. I'm Christopher Pellegrini, with you again, reporting from the Japan Sake and Shochu Makers Association. We're at the Sake Information Center near Toranomon Station, not too far from Shimbashi. If you haven't been here before, absolutely come on down. And we're here today, I'm here today, very fortunately, joined by a couple of experts in the inner workings, the background of the industry here in Japan. They've got the data, they've got the ears of the people who can give them kind of the inside track on a lot of things. So this is very exciting for me, and I'm glad that we get to share it with you through this forum. There are 8 episodes, there are 8 different ways that we're talking about Japan's indigenous drinks, sake, awamori, shochu. So there's a lot of other content available. Be sure to go back for that. Watch things that happened before in both of the weekends, and let us know your thoughts. Comment, ask questions, share with us what you're learning about these drinks wherever you live in the world. And we will be happy to take you up on those conversations. So anyways, let's get started. We're talking about shochu and awamori today. And today I have both Mr. Imada and Ms. Iuchi with me, both from the JSS, the Japan Sake and Shochu Makers Association. Thank you very much.
Hello, hello.
Thank you very much. And we're going to start off with a little bit of a backgrounder on the JSS and the JSS's activities outside of Japan. So I believe that I'm going to hand this over to you, Iuchi-san. Oh, to Imada-san. I'll figure it out someday. All right. So please, I'll give you the mic.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Thank you, Chris. Well, he looks really casual, but actually he's very well experienced as an educator as well as a trader of shochu and awamori. Well, and has so much of an affection about awamori and shochu, so he can easily do an hour or 2 session, 2 hours, 1 or 2 hour session easily in native English. So it might be better to let him do the session rather than doing mine, but that's my task, so I'm sorry about it. So to start with, I'd like to start with talking about JSS a little bit, because there should be some viewers who doesn't know anything about JSS. So JSS stands for Japan Sake and Shochu Makers Association, which is a central organization of about 1,700 sake breweries and shochu distilleries all over Japan. And we do all things like educating the technical education to the JSS members, and doing the promotion to overseas and domestic market, and things so on. And JSS Information Center, as Chris just told, is a PR basement of the industry, PR basement of JSS, which is located in the center of Tokyo, which is very close to Toranomon or Shimbashi, those kind of real convenient stations. So, and we do, you can gather information about the producers and the sake and shochu events all around Japan, as well as enjoy the tasting of the diverse variety of sake and shochu here. And I would like to talk a bit more about the podcast we do, Sake on Air. Sake on Air is the podcast program we do, and Chris actually is one of the main casts of it. Thank you, Chris. And it's a podcast program dedicated to only sake and shochu. So, and listened by more than 130 countries in the world, I think. And Chris himself does a podcast called Japan Distilled, and that's talks a little bit more deep dive into shochu world. So if you are interested in those kind of podcasts, please have a listen. Thank you. Back to you, Chris.
Thank you very much. I did not expect that plug for the podcast, but yes, Japan Distilled and of course Sake on Air, both are well, Sake on Air in particular has a bunch of kind of very well-known people that are on air a couple times a month, and it's definitely worth your while if our thing is kind of like your thing. That's a good place to go for more information. Now today, we're going to be talking about both the international movement of Shochu and awamori all around the world. How's that going? How's it been going? How is it going? Maybe going in the future. We'll get into that too. We're also going to take a step back and we're going to look at the market here in Japan. How are Shochu and awamori sales doing domestically? How do people here enjoy it? And what's the potential future there as well? To talk a bit more about the overseas aspect of this entire endeavor, we have Ms. Iuchi with us, who spent a good deal of time in New York and knows that market very, very well. And she also has a very, very long background in terms of talking to makers and dealing with distributors. So she's got a lot of very interesting information. And some of that she's going to share with us today. So Iuchi-san.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Imada-san. Thank you, Christopher. My name is Hiromi Iuchi. I am currently the Senior Manager of Overseas Promotion Department of the Japan Sake and Shochu Makers Association. And today I'll be sharing some information with you, the current status of the exports and maybe the strategy of the JSS, like how the number could be up with the plan. First, I'd like to show you the domestic shipment history. This is the domestic shipment history of the last 50 years, and this is by volume. And you can see the sake consumption is declining tremendously. That's the fact. But honkaku shochu is growing a little bit, little by little, over the 50 years. And I should mention that there's like two shochu mentioned. One is a column distilled shochu, which is we call it korui shochu. That's the column distilled, so it's number of times the distillation go through. And the other one, the red one, is the part distilled shochu. We call this one as a honkaku shochu. So see in the end of the graph, it says 2020, it's the sake and the honkaku shochu is about the same. That means the domestic market in Japan, the sake and honkaku shochu is just about the same consumption, 50-50. So this fact is unknown. A lot of people are surprised to hear this when I mention this. Most people think outside, especially the outside of Japan, people think that the sake is the dominant drink. And then how about the outside of Japan? This is volume-wise. Versus to the shochu production in a year, the export is only 0.7%. In that sense, the shochu is surely the hidden treasure in Japan, which is really exciting at this point that for us to work on it, right? And this is the export value of all category of Japanese alcoholic beverages. The sake in red is growing up, and whiskey, which is the dark blue, is growing more. Actually, the whiskey export value is exceeded the sake export value last year, 2020. And the liqueur and gin are growing category, but the shochu, which is the light blue, is about the same. And compared with the shochu, the sake and whiskey, it's kind of little. So I summarized these facts that sake versus to shochu, to see the balance of the two Japanese kokushu, the national alcohol beverage. The domestic market is sake, shochu, as I said, 50-50. And export value if the sake and shochu export is 100% and then sake is the 96% and shochu is only 4%. And export quantity of the total production, sake is 7%, goes out to outside of Japan, and then the shochu is 0.7%. So you can tell. So, okay, then which area the shochu is exported to the most? There are mainly to China and the USA. These two countries combined have 63% of share. And here's the export value for top 10 countries. China and the US dominate the most of it, as I mentioned. And you might notice the Australian number. It is not the normal, like 2021, we investigated and then we found out that it was a Korui shochu suddenly became popular in Australia last year. So that's why that it just went up, like just 1 year last year. Another thing that you learn is that there is only in Asia and Oceania countries besides the United States. Not any countries mentioned from Europe in top 10. So at this point we could say, sorry, in Japan, the honkaku shochu and then sake consumption is 50-50. It's both very, friendly, similar drink for Japanese, but not being sold outside of Japan that much, and then sold only in Asia and United States. I think that's my conclusion by making this documentation this time. Kind of surprising that there's no European country mentioned. Okay, and then so how are we going to increase the export of the shochu? Shochu is still unknown. And the goal is to establish that position in the world spirits market. First, we want everyone to know about shochu. So the sales point would be, one, shochu is a cool spirit, and with a long history and a cultural background, and produced in Japan. And koji is used, very special. And it is part distilled, only one-time distillation. Most of the shochu is. And then lots of variety in taste. Ingredients, lots of ingredients, and type of koji that they could choose to make the particular shochu, and then also the distillation method, the normal pressure or the reduced pressure distillation. So these combination would come up with a different type of variety of the taste. Then number two is shochu is usually consumed during a meal in Japan, like historically tradition. That's the tradition, which is very rare as the distilled spirits. So you can drink in any occasion, like before meal or during a meal or after meal, of course. So those are the sales point, I think. So JSS Overseas project. So we focus on some strategy, come up with the strategies that for sake, the JSS is approaching on wine industry mainly. So focusing on sommelier or wine specialist. And for shochu, we focus on spirits industry, especially the mixologist whom I think as a great influencer. And with those strong sales points from the previous page, the shochu can be popular among the professionals. We think we can follow the example of mezcal from Mexico. And mezcal promotes the points like being traditional, its history, being craft spirits, and the uniqueness of that. So honkaku shochu could have all that points. Sales points as well. So once mixologists find the mezcal, they created a cocktail and then everyone put it on the bar menu. So we have to work on, so I think the shochu could be in the same path that we could take, the same path hopefully. And so what we have to do is like we have to work on a branding and education and then market development, and those three things that we have to tackle all simultaneously, because it works simultaneously, these three. And with that in mind, we do have promotions. Here's the for example of the promotions program that we did 2022 this year. So Wine and Spirits Trade Show, we put the honkaku shochu and awamori in on Bar Convent Building 2022, and Pro Wine Shanghai, and Vinexpo Paris. In Vinexpo Paris, it's coming up in February, and we have sake shown in the international wine section, and shochu is going to be in the spirit section. It's called B Spirit. And Pro Wine Düsseldorf in Germany, it will be in March, and we're going to be having the sake and shochu seminar there. And shochu cocktail competition, we're going to be doing one in USA and one in UK, London. USA will be in New York. So it'll be very exciting to reach to all the exciting mixologists. And the events in Japan, we try to bring influencer to Kyushu to go around the different shochu areas. And this year, we brought 7 influencers, the mixologists. And then we went to the Oita and the Kumamoto and the Kagoshima. So total is 6 distillers that we went through. So I think it would be very interesting to study the category. Most of the mixologists is invited to Japan by the maker. One, like, Nick Santry, like a famous brand maker, but then they can only go to those areas. But like with the JSS, the tour will be all around, all different ingredients, and so it'll be very educational. I think this could be the very key of promoting the shochu to the world.
Absolutely.
So honkaku shochu and awamori seminar for the foreign residents in Japan. This one that we do every year as well. As a recent news, I just want to share with you this news that as of July 1st, 2022, in the United States, New York State has changed the liquor law that shochu under 24% can be sold with a soft liquor license. Finally, shochu is differentiated from soju. But at the same time, the label needs to be said shochu, not soju.
It's a good thing.
It's clearly shows that soju is Korean and shochu is Japanese alcoholic beverage. And so distributors need to make sure it does not say soju on the label of shochu, which is a challenge.
It's a good challenge.
And many spirits competition now have a shochu category. And I remember that about 5 years ago, the shochu and soju and maybe the baijiu are in the same one category. And whiskey was, I think a contest competition is very important to promote the categories that whiskey is, is proved by the whiskey popularity that whiskey was recognized by these competitions overseas. So this is a good thing for shochu, and it's a good thing to be able to appeal to all those judges as well. Okay, then JSS renewed the global site, both sake and shochu. Please check it out. You can learn a lot here. We spend a lot of time developing this content. And also, we also created a website in the U.S. Targeting the mixologists or professionals in the bar industry, and it is up and running. It's called Shochu Guide. It started the newsletter recently, and the blog as well. So please register it, and you'll be hearing from them. And Instagram is up and running as well. It's becoming very active these days. And JSS also has a YouTube channel. We worked on many seminars and videos, created videos last year. So you can watch them here. So I guess that's about it.
Fantastic.
From me.
Thank you very much
Thank
for
you.
that.
Thank
Excellent summary of what's going on with JSS both here and overseas, and what's happening in the domestic market, which is only less than 1% of shochu and awamori is exported.
That could tell you like how the shochu is a hidden treasure, right?
It really is. That's absolutely right. There's hundreds of distilleries, thousands of brands, and it all stays here. It all is consumed in Japan. So I guess that leads us to you, Imada-san. What is the deal with the domestic consumption? Please tell us about how things are going for the shochu industry and the awamori industry here, where all of these beautiful spirits are consumed, it seems.
Okay, from now on, I would like to talk a bit about the domestic market and the production state of honkaku shochu and awamori in Japan. And maybe some of the viewers today are not too familiar with honkaku shochu and awamori, so I would like to talk about 15 minutes to 20 minutes about the overview knowledge of the shochu and the latest trend of it in the domestic market. Okay, let me start with the map here. This is a prefectural map of honkaku shochu and awamori distilleries, how they are located in Japan. And the deep blue shows that there are many shochu distilleries. And it says that there are about 600 licensed shochu producers in Japan, but maybe more than half of them are mainly producing sake and use the byproducts of sake, which is a sake lee, to produce a sake custody shochu, which is like a grappa of Italy. So there are about 270 distilleries who mainly produce shochu in Japan, and most of them are located in the southern part of Kyushu. And there are three main reasons, I think, why they're all located in the southern part of Kyushu. The first reason might be that the historical reason that the distillation technology originally came from Thailand through a continent, through China or through Ryukyu Island, which is Okinawa nowadays. And the Kyushu Island was the closest from them. And the second reason might be about the climate. Climate of the Kyushu, southern Kyushu, is too hot to produce sake, which needs to control the very delicate mechanism of microorganisms and bacteria, and which is not very suitable for very hot weather of the southern Kyushu, right? And the third reason might be the volcano. Southern Kyushu is a very volcanic land. There are many volcanoes there. And the volcanic ashes is not very suitable to grow rice. It's suitable to grow sweet potatoes, but not rice. So, there aren't enough rice supply to those areas. So that's the reason why they're located in southern Kyushu Island. And this map shows the main regions of honkaku shochu and awamori, mainly in Kyushu Island. And out of that, four regions, which are Iki in Nagasaki Prefecture, Kuma in Kumamoto Prefecture, and Satsuma from Kagoshima Prefecture, and Ryukyu from Okinawa Prefecture, are designated as a GI, which is a geographical indication. So their regional brand is protected internationally by WTO, World Trade Organization. Okay, let's go to some statistics about the domestic market here. This is about the same statistics which Hiromi-san has shown. This is the consumption of honkaku shochu and aomori from 1970 to 2020. And as you can see from this graph, the total consumption of honkaku shochu and aomori in 1970 was less than 10% compared to the one of 2009 when it was its peak. So that means honkaku shochu and aomori used to be a very total Kyushu local drink. And the people outside of Kyushu seldom drank shochu at that time. And there are several other distilled spirits in the eastern part of Japan, but they're mainly the clumps distilled kind of products, which is a industrial ethanol type of spirits. So not the ones in which you can enjoy the character of the main ingredients, like honkaku shochu. So the consumption of honkaku shochu has increased through 3 times of the boom. And in 2007, it has seen its peak. And the people living outside of southern Kyushu region are not so familiar with the distinct flavor derived from the main ingredients of shochu at that time. So they are used to drinking this industrial ethanol with a like juice or hop flavor or tea flavor, those kind of thing.
Sure.
So it's rare. Honkaku shochu's flavor was quite rare for us living outside of Kyushu. But after that, the imported beverage has increased like red wines, and people are getting more and more used to appreciate the flavor of the alcohol. So actually, they gradually become to say that the flavor of shochu is very authentic, rather than saying it's a strange smell.
Right.
You know, right? We used to say it smells, right? So this is the consumption of honkaku shochu and aomori versus sake. As Hiromi mentioned, through these kind of stories, honkaku shochu's consumption in domestic market has increased pretty much. But now the consumption of honkaku shochu and sake are about the same level as Hiromi mentioned, and people outside of Japan doesn't know about that fact. Okay, this graph shows the changes in the share of the raw materials of honkaku shochu. And the first shochu which has got the popularity in Japan was barley shochu. And at its peak, it has about 55% share in the shochu market. And then comes shochu, sweet potato shochu became more popular after 2003 or 2005. And now the share of barley shochu and sweet potato shochu are about the same level now. And this graph shows the share of the raw materials. As you can see here, sweet potato has 44% share. Barley is 43%. It's about the same. They're about the same. And then comes rice, shochu, and aomori, but they're very, very small amount. They're a big difference compared to barley and sweet potato shochus. And this is the export volume of shochu versus sake. As I said, sake's consumption has decreased for these half centuries, for a long time. And honkaku shochu's consumption has increased about 10 times through that period. However, contrary to that fact, the export volume of shochu hasn't changed almost at all. Things has changed. It has been changing in very recent years, a little by little. But there are so many things Hiromi has to do overseas market.
Come on, Hiromi.
Lots of work. All right, let's go to the latest trend in the domestic shochu market now. I think there are about 4 factors which determines the flavor of shochu. The first factor is the raw materials. The raw materials gives a very crucial impact to the flavor of shochu. So the producers are always seeking for materials which suits the latest trend of the market, or contrary, which has a universal value. Secondly, the distillation method has a big impact. As you can see, there is a very Japanese special technique called vacuum distillation or reduced pressure distillation, which is a technique to reduce the evaporation temperature by decreasing the air pressure inside a mill. And as a result, can extract a very sensitive and delicate and fruity type of flavor into shochu from the mash. So the shochu producers select either atmospheric distillation or vacuum distillation, or sometimes mix both techniques together to produce the flavor which they want to express in their shochu. Next comes the refining process. Refining process is very simple but very important technique. And definitely, I think it's one of the main technical innovation in these several decades, I think. And basically, the refining process is how to make shochu refined and clear. But in shochu production, however, how much elements you leave in the shochu is as important as how much you remove from the shochu. And finally, the storage method and the storage period is very important. And it can be said to most of the distilled beverage all over the world, I think, like Scotch whiskey. But basically, spirits raises its value as it matures, right? Mm-hmm. But however, in shochu case, it's a little bit different about the storage period. And I'll talk about it a little bit later on. Okay, now, what kind of trend do we especially find in the present shochu market? Let's focus on two typical trends in the market now. One of it is how people dilute shochu to drink these days, and how the producers cope with that, or what kind of shochu do the producers try to make these days. As you know, traditionally in Japan, in local area, shochu was drunk by oyuwari, mainly by oyuwari. In other words, diluted with hot water. And in other words, that's diluting style is to drink shochu as a substitute of sake. As sake is a very expensive, rice is a very expensive thing in the southern Kyushu island because the soil doesn't suit the rice production, as I said. So it's impossible for the ordinary people to drink sake in their daily lives. So they reluctantly dilute shochu, which is easier for them to drink, and make it hot to warm like sake, and drink with meals like sake. That's the history of the southern Kyushu island. And that's one of the reasons why shochu is drunk diluted by hot water. But people, especially the younger age people, prefer the drinks in cold temperature. So they use water instead of using hot water. And also there was a big boom of the highball or whiskey soda. So diluting sake with a soda has become very popular in Japan. But the flavor of the authentic shochu, especially the sweet potato shochu, which is based on a rich sweet potato flavor, didn't suit the soda dilute with soda so much. So the producers tried to make a new type of flavors which suits to drink dilute with soda. In other words, shochu with a refreshing and fruity aroma. Okay, about the raw materials here. This is a picture of sweet potatoes. They're diverse variety of sweet potatoes. They look very beautiful. It's white one, orange one, the purple ones, and the yellow ones. So the producers first look for the variety, diversity of the raw materials to find a new flavors. And some producers try to mature the sweet potatoes to extract some flavor like honey. And some producers mature it even more to extract some very different flavors like lychee or citrus or muscat-like flavor. And of course, the yeast is a very important part of the production. And that's definitely another element which influenced the flavor of shochu. Some producers uses a new species for yeast, or uses wine yeast or beer yeast to extract some banana-like or apple-like flavors in the shochu. This kind of various fruity shochu suits to drink cold or dilute with soda. So these kind of shochu are pretty popular these days in the market. On the other hand, there are the producers who try to refine and evolve the authentic type and traditional type of sweet potato shochu, which is good to drink by oyuwari or dilute with hot water. For example, some producers don't do the filtration so much and leave the fatty element intentionally in order to emphasize the richness of the sweet potato shochu. It looks a little cloudy, very interesting. The fat looks cloudy in the shochu, and it's a very interesting trail as well. There's always a tradition in Japan to dilute, not to dilute and drink neat. These are some sake vessels from Okinawa and Kumamoto region to drink shochu neat. They usually use a very small cup like this, very small one. And also, there are many professional bartenders and mixologists who's interested in making cocktails with shochu these days. Okay, now I'd like to tell a little bit about what the water characterizes the Japanese shochu. In recent days, the excellence of the Japanese water is being reconsidered among shochu professionals. Japan is blessed with good waters. As you know, Japan is a very thin island country with a mountain range like a backbone of the island, and the river is steep and short. So the natural water, underground water, is very good and soft. This kind of soft natural water brings about the gentle and soft character of shochu. And as a result, you can enjoy the mild and gentle mouthfeel shochu without spending so many years like whiskey or other distilled spirits. This might be the same as the character of Japanese whiskey too, I think. And lastly, I would like to mention a little bit about the moto gusare byo, which is a sweet potato disease. It's not a good news, but I have to mention a little bit about it. This is a disease which is caused by the bacteria peculiar to sweet potato and causes the potatoes to rot. This picture is upper half brown part is a rotten part. So this is quite rampant in southern Kyushu area, and the sweet potatoes production is declining these several years. I only hope that it will over as soon as possible. And with that, I would like to wrap up my presentation. Back to you, Chris.
You're going to wrap it up on a disease? Oh my geez. Well, let's talk about this disease. I think let's bring this to like a roundtable discussion here. Is anything being done about this big problem to make the future a little bit more secure and stable for the industry?
Is there any very good method? I don't think there have been good method found yet, but they have been trying lots of tests to grow some different species of and the shochu producers are trying to use different species, sweet potatoes, not dependent too much by Kogane Sengan. Because the disease is especially bad in Kogane Sengan, right? Which is the biggest majority of the materials. By far. But they're a good part of that too, because the producers try to find other new sweet potato varieties that can make a change to the quality of their products.
Silver lining.
Can be good.
Yep. Hopefully they figure that out. There are some distilleries that aren't selling or making any sweet potato shochu this season. So that's crazy to me, and obviously is a problem not only for domestic consumption but also for overseas. Moving the product overseas, and so I want to go back to some of the things that you were talking about. Okay. I'm interested in particular about the mezcal comparison, right. And I want to hear a little bit more of your thoughts on that point. I think it's really interesting. Mezcal obviously is booming. The prediction is that next year will be big again, right? What is it about shochu that can be considered similar or unique in a way that mezcal is unique?
I think the tequila is everybody knows, right? And so shochu, there's not so much people knows about the shochu. So it might be a little bit difficult for shochu to become like a mezcal, because mezcal, it's already have a tequila background, and then they just need to show the differentiation from the regular or mass-produced tequila versus to the mezcal, right? Sure. So in that sense, the shochu is a little bit difficult. I mean, the chances are not, it's a little bit difficult compared with that. But at the same time, the mezcal is not cheap. And then the honkaku shochu outside of Japan is very expensive. True. It's not that like producer is making money, but all the tiers. Then the price is almost the same as the mezcal area, like $30, $50 a bottle to buy at the bar, right? So in that sense, I think a targeted customer is the same range. And the people who found mezcal to be very interesting will be finding the interesting part in shochu, honkaku shochu. That's what I think. So in that sense, we are in the same area with mezcal. And taste-wise, also the shochu is very unique. And so it's not same as a mezcal or tequila at all. So it could be differentiated from the mezcal too. Also. So I think there's a lot of chance on it. And then the way the mezcal was discovered and then becoming very popular is, to me, it's not that hard. That's what I thought. Maybe as a category, if we promote it to the very core people, like influencer, mixologists, the people who has like a interest in those craft spirits and tradition and cultural background, they would be interested in honkaku shochu. So if somebody started discovering the honkaku shochu as a next cool spirit, and then everybody else started bringing in to the bars. So I think that the only barrier for shochu, not the mezcal, would be the distribution barrier. So the shochu is carried by the many Japanese distributors or Japanese restaurant, focused business, not the bar business. So you need to get into the bar business, which is haven't,
just getting
being
started.
successful
So
yet.
it's a channel issue.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
So once that more people recognized as a honkaku shochu as being a next to maybe the cool spirits, popular spirits, maybe the American distributors or bar business distributor will be recognized that find that sales point and then bring it in. Then maybe we can start distributing more or selling shochu more. But at this point, there's like a breaking point, I think. We need a demand in order to get the distribution.
Sure, sure. Yeah, chicken or the egg.
In that sense, I think the shochu has a lot more diversity compared to mezcal,
Right.
the variety.
Yeah.
But can be too much of a diversity to, maybe as a strategy, you should concentrate on some part. I mean, to make people not too difficult to understand shochu about. What do you think about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's dozens of approved ingredients. What is shochu? Somebody asks you. Like, it could be anything. It can be many things. Okay,
That's
I
a
still
charm.
don't understand what shochu is.
That's a charm, but as well, it's can be a weak point.
It's a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And another challenge that shochu has. Shochu doesn't have a song like tequila has a song.
Oh, I didn't know that. Let's make it.
Ba-bum, bum, 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 bum. Don't you remember? I mean, if shochu had a song, I mean, it would be to the moon. But I mean, we're talking about, I like that idea of the channel selection and finding the bar channel and really putting energy into that. You talked about highballs, right? And does the highball have potential overseas? What's your take on that?
That's difficult. That's a difficult question, and I'm quite doubtful about that.
Okay.
Yeah, can be a good method in the domestic market for the moment, but my opinion is that it's easier to go to that international market with a cocktail base rather than doing just diluted with soda or highball. Highball is maybe a cocktail, but it's just a diluting, method, right? So cocktail might be easier for the people to understand about it. Shochu. Well, that's my opinion.
Well, that's an interesting point because I don't think bartenders, these influencers that we need, they're not going to get excited about highballs, I don't think. They want to make something new.
Right.
So I think that's a very interesting point.
Right.
And the real charm of honkaku shochu, although is not a cocktail, is a real, complex and vague and some mysterious flavor of it.
Yeah.
And its sweetness and its umami, right?
Yeah.
Umami, which other spirits doesn't have.
Yeah.
So
Tastes like
finally,
what it's made from.
we should go to that phase to educate people in that phase. So cocktail can be the introduction to open the door to the people.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So we did maybe 3 times shochu influencer tour. Brought the mixologist, very top mixologist, to Japan to go around the shochu distilleries, and then 5 days visiting like maybe 6 or 8 distilleries in 5 days. They got it. They get it like right on. It's like, okay, the best way to enjoy the honkaku shochu is the oyuwari. So, but
that's a good
they
news,
have
though.
to, I think, but they said they needed to be introduced, and then they're going to be helping to introduce the shochu in making cocktails.
Yeah.
Or it's just a way of promoting the shochu at first.
When we talk with the bartenders and mixologists, most of them says that it's easy to use the very distinct flavor like lychee or muscat to make cocktails. But that's our type of shochu which doesn't represent the whole market of shochu, right?
And then another thing is that shochu in the market, it's mostly 25% of by volume, alcohol by volume, right? Which is a little bit low alcohol for the cocktail making. Then it's kind of hard to treat that 25% low alcohol to come up with the cocktails without killing the flavor of the shochu. So you need a high technique to do that. So if it's a challenge as well. So a lot of mixologists, maybe the bar owners or bartenders or salespeople might say like, your sake, shochu need to be a higher alcohol, like 30%, 35%, 40%. So all the distillers are like listening to, oh, okay, so we have to make it to like 40%. But then it will be a different stories, right? Like because on the market is shochu market is mainly 25%, and then when the alcohol percentage is up, then the taxes goes up too. Sure. So it gets more expensive too. It's difficult to sell. So I think we should have two ways, like maybe 40% alcohol and then 25% alcohol shochu. Both are introduced by maybe first by the cocktail, and then there's a diversity on alcohol.
That's a very interesting point, and it's a question that comes up all the time. Yes, yes. Which is better, the Genshu undiluted for the for the foreign market, for the outside of Japan market, or the standard, the 25 or something close to it, or is it both? Is there a possibility for both? What do you think about these things?
I think we should have both.
Both.
Yeah.
Both.
Because you can't choose only one.
Right. And then like culturally, like shochu is, for us, like in Japan, 25% is kind of like normal, or some, it's a shochu. 40% it's good, or 30% good, but we have to stick with the 25%.
And dilute it with hot water down to 50%. That's
so good.
That's so good.
Yes.
Many people think that's the best way.
Yeah, come to
Japan.
Enjoy. Enjoy oyuwari for the first time. Everybody listening out there, you will understand. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And that's because of the coach flavor and the oil and the umami, which shochu contains in it, which is different.
Another sales point is, I mentioned it, it's during a meal.
Yeah.
I love on the rocks with like maybe karaage or something. Fried chicken or something, anything. Like shochu can go well with like any type of food, which is like really handy.
It's handy.
Yeah.
What are some other good pairings that you like with these
I
spirits?
like pizza.
Pizza, and what kind of shochu?
What kind of shochu?
Yeah, not a brand, but like...
Yeah, any kind.
Any kind?
But I like it on the rocks. It's easy to handle. Maybe, it's nice to have hot water as well, maybe towards the end of the meal. But it's easy, right there on the rocks.
I like the pizza idea, especially pepperoni pizza with sweet potato shochu. For me, makes a lot of sense.
Right. Yeah. And then the koji factor will come up, right?
That's true. That's true.
Because of the koji use.
It becomes the connection between the meals and shochu.
Which no other beverage,
can never have.
Distilled spirits has.
That's true. Yeah.
That's a secret part of shochu.
The secret sauce. Yep, absolutely. Well, we got time for, I think, one or two more questions. So another thing that I wanted to get into let's keep on this thing with the how do we get people into it? If you've got a wine drinker on your hands, all right, how are you going to introduce them to shochu? What's the entry point?
Wine?
Yeah, white or red, whichever.
Maybe red.
Red, okay.
And sweet potatoes.
Interesting, yeah.
Very full body, and then the normal pressure.
And there's a lot of red and purple sweet potatoes too, right? Red wine. There's something fruity that.
Smell-wise?
Yeah, there's something.
Like a attack or like the fullness of it.
I like that idea. Okay.
I think the drinking people likes the flavor. Of the wines, and they're very used to those kind of grape flavors. So not a very different type of flavor. Like I would say, many wine drinkers like sake, right? Sake is ginger aroma. Right, yes. So maybe the reduced pressure rice shochu with a custody shochu, maybe a good choice for them. Can be a good choice. Soft, delicate, and aromatic. Yeah. Or maybe the light type of sweet potato shochu with some lychee flavor can be the case for wine drinkers.
But it's kind of interesting that like when I was doing the sales in the United States, that I had a sake and shochu on my portfolio. Then I always go to the wine drinker with the sake, and then the shochu only goes to the beer drinker or the people who doesn't drink wine. So there's like types. There's like two types of people. That distilled spirits people stick with the distilled spirits.
Sure.
Gin, vodka, Then the wine people, wine drinker, stick with the wine.
Yeah.
So, I don't really try to go the other way.
So if it's a beer drinker, what do you recommend for them?
I would say barley shochu because they're used to the smell of barley.
With soda.
With soda. Can't be
There's that carbonation that they will be missing, unless they drink real ales.
There are many foreign people visiting this information center, and I asked them which type they prefer. And it's interesting because it's quite different from the drinks they usually drink, and the areas too. Like the people from Scandinavian people likes sweet potato shochu somehow, because they're used to a potato flavor for their spirits, like akavit. Yeah. People from Poland, sometimes people from Germany likes that flavor, but the people from England say prefer the barley shochu. That's the tendency I find.
Yeah, I think that sums it up. Pretty much what we're trying to say today is that you just got to try it. We got to get it out there in front of people, and we need, we're going to need help from the influencers, the bartenders. We're going to need help from the makers to come up with new expressions, maybe new ingredients, new yeast strains. There's a lot of innovation happening right now. I feel like it's a really exciting time to be paying attention.
Do you hear any, the company is opening up the shochu distilleries outside of Japan?
Yeah. I mean, there are a few good ones that I'm aware of, like good meaning I've had the shochu, I've tasted people on it blind here in Japan, and they are shocked that it's not made in Japan. Really? And they're scared too. On one of them, they were like, oh geez, this is better than what some of this other stuff that I've had. And that was obviously, I think, maybe they were a little bit drunk when they said that, but there are some interesting things happening. Now the sake world is way ahead. There's lots of sake breweries. Shochu distilleries, not yet.
Distilleries should be aware of that.
Yeah.
I think it's coming.
It is coming. That's a great point. I think you're right. And I'm excited for it.
And
I can't wait.
It's good for the industry.
Absolutely. The more people that hear the word shochu and know that it's not soju, that's good news for everybody. So thank you to the JSS for helping with that law that was passed in July of this year in New York State. Hopefully other states will take notice and follow their lead. Please follow our lead and try some more shochu, try some more awamori, and tell your friends. Share what you're having. Find the type that you like. There is a shochu for everyone. There's dozens of ingredients. There has to be something that matches your preferences, your palate. So go for it and take photos, ask us questions. We'll give comments. It'll be a big collaboration, and shochu will be the next big thing. It'll be the next mezcal. It'll be the next. It's Japan's last kept secret. So after that, it's gonna be kind of sad because once everybody finds shochu in awamori, we don't have anything left. No more secrets. But anyways, you heard it here first. Thank you for your time and your attention, and to all of you out there from all three of us in the Information Center in Toranomon, a very hearty and heartfelt kanpai, or kari as they say in Okinawa. Kari.
Kari. Kanpai.
Kanpai. A little bit more.